Workers' compensation, maybe you've had to file in the past and you know how difficult the process can be. But if you find yourself with questions about this topic, when you're not alone. Today we welcome Desiree, an attorney from Catania Catania, to our show to help guide us workers' compensation. If people have been there, I mean, they might be shuddering at the thought right now, right?
I'm sure there are people who are shuddering. I shudder too sometimes, so I understand.
Why is that? Why is there such a shudder reaction? Because people know how difficult it can be?
I think it's a little bit of both. There are a lot of challenges that come with the process. Every state is a little bit different, so maybe if you had to file if you lived up north before and you had to file there, don't expect it to be the same in Florida. It does vary from state to state. Florida is one of the more difficult states for employees that do need to file for workers' compensation. The main thing I would keep in mind is you only have 30 days from the date of the injury occurring or from the date that you were aware that your injury is work-related to file. So it's so imperative to file and to notify your employer within that 30-day time frame.
I think that's first and foremost, right?
Yes,
that 30-day timeline. And then I know there's a few other things that you definitely want people to keep in mind if you're getting ready to go through this process, right?
Yes. The first thing that you should really keep in mind is going to your own doctor is actually not sufficient. It may be necessary at the very beginning of the stages if you don't really if you're not really aware that the injury occurred because of something that happened at work. For instance, when we see this a lot is if people work on an assembly line and they're using the same hand over and over and over again, and they start to develop carpal tunnel syndrome. That's actually something that is covered by workers' compensation, but they may not know that it was due to their job until they've seen their own doctors. In other sets of circumstances, you can notify your employer if it was a traumatic event, like an accident that occurred on the job, and they should advise you where that you should go in terms of an emergency room, a walk-in clinic, if they use a particular one. After the claim is open through their work comp carrier, they will be contacting you and telling you which doctors you should go to. Unfortunately, even if you may prefer your own doctor to the workers' compensation carrier's doctor, in order for it to be covered, you do need to seek the treatment with the workers' compensation doctor.
So before you even maybe get to that point, there's a lot of doctor appointments that kind of add up. And I'm assuming you're going to have to miss time in work. Are you compensated for the time that you miss during a workers' compensation trial?
Sure. You are. The employers are usually willing to work with you about your missed time too. But if you are completely out of work because of your limitations, if you did suffer severe impairment, there is what's called temporary total disability. You receive 66 2/3% of your income. You do not get paid or compensated for the first 7 days until you've missed 21 days altogether. After that, they will send you a check bi-weekly for that percentage of your income just to kind of help ends meet. Now, if you are allowed to go back to work with maybe a light duty and your employer can accommodate that, but you're not going to make the same money that you were making before. Workers' compensation will pay the difference up to 80% of what your income was before if you are on light duty and you aren't making the same amount.
So you're rattling out these numbers, 66 2/3 and 80%. I mean, clearly I'm seeing why it's important to have a lawyer on your side when you're going through this. What are some cases that you do take? If someone's watching out there, how do they know if, yes, I need to go ahead and pick up the phone, I can't do this alone?
If you are starting to get frustrated with a workers' compensation carrier, you feel like you're just not having answers, we'll take anything to help somebody from a very minor injury if they're just not necessarily getting the treatment that they need and they think that they need more. Or we're always happy to just give you advice if you want to call in, and we'll say maybe this isn't necessarily a case that we can help you with, but there's so many resources that are available. You can go on to, the Division of Workers' Compensation has a website, and you can calculate how much you should be receiving in monetary benefits to make sure that the carrier is calculating it correctly. Because, if you're anything like I am with math, I'm not always the best. I do screw up. So it's very easy. You just plug in the numbers, it spits them back out to you and tells you what you should be receiving so that you can ensure the carriers are paying you properly. But we have helped people anywhere from maybe a broken foot to, unfortunately, sometimes catastrophic events that could result in a death. So there's not just one area that we work with or one type of injury. You know, if you have sustained this injury, you should at least consider speaking to an attorney to see if there's something additional that you are entitled to.
Well, if you're interested in speaking with Desiree or her team, well, be sure to go online, visit cataniaandcatania.com. There's also a phone number, and don't forget, you do get a free legal consultation if you give them a call. Thank you so much for your time and advice today.
Thank you for having us.